What's up, everybody? Welcome to, wait, I should do that right? Guess what day it is? Hemp Day! Wednesday is officially, from now until the end of time, known as Hemp Day. And we're going to pan here just a little bit. Here in San Diego, Charles Vest joining us.
Charles Vest gets to hang with the Chris's.
Myself, Christopher Hussey.
Chris Boucher.
The godfather of hemp right here. And
Billy Funk.
Mr. Billy Funk just hanging out. This is actually a true, honest to goodness hangout where we all had our day. We're just doing our We're just on the couch. We've got some vapes. We've what is that called, Chris? What is that you're drinking?
Oh, it's some yerba mate. It's in a gourd.
I'm seeing the gourd. I'm liking it.
Yeah, it's hippie tea.
Hippie tea. I got my water, which is new for me, but I'm having some good influence around here. Charles, it's working. Marcos is in the back. He's our logistics guy. He's taking care of us. You guys, I want you to know that we've done some hangouts, right? We've done some hangouts, and everything that we've done up till now prepared us for tonight. Because, I mean, if I'm being honest,
which you always are,
which I try to be honest, if I'm being honest, Kannaway as a company, Kannaway as an idea, the opportunity that you guys are so excited about, by the way, we crossed the 15,000 person threshold about an hour ago, and I looked on the computer before I sat down here and started hanging out with Chris, and we're actually almost at 15,200. So we crossed the 15,000 threshold at around 5 o'clock. Here we are starting to hang out at 6 o'clock, and we're almost at 15,200. So I don't know what it is that you guys are doing out there, but whatever it is, just keep doing what you're doing, right? Billy, what do you think about 15,000 people wanting to get in Kannaway?
Well, it makes sense. I mean, there's no other company that has what we have. You know, there's an extreme buzz that's going on. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody wants to be a part of the Kannaway. It's a totally new way, and I think it's the only way. It's called Kannaway.
That was 4 ways. Yeah. 15,000 people wanting to join a new business opportunity about hemp.
I think it's just scratching the surface when it comes to hemp.
That's why we're here,
Yeah,
right?
it's going to get a lot bigger than that.
I think, yeah.
Hemp is worldwide. Global.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about that in just a little. Charles, 15,000 people.
Well, 15,000 people is a good number. It's a decent number, but it's not.
Look at Charles throwing out. He's throwing it out there.
Where it can be. Because think about it. You're watching this hangout right now, and there's what, about 300 people watching the hangout?
It's probably 400 now.
Okay, so you're the one that's the most important. You're watching this hangout right now. Let's just say there's 400 people on this hangout. If only half of you call one person to get on this hangout, right? There would be, let's do the math, 4 times 4 plus 2.
We're good. We got it.
600 people. And so when you think about having 15,000, if only a couple hundred of you just started to let people know about this opportunity, the numbers just seem to fly off the board. And so, 15,000 is a great number, but I am absolutely certain that by this weekend we should hit somewhere in the vicinity of 20,000 to 25,000. What do you think?
Sugar just texted me. I'm on the Facebook with Sugar. She said there's not 400 people on the hangout. There are 550 people.
See? Do you see? Can you bring the camera back over here?
All right, go back over there.
Do you see how fast that suggestion worked?
He said 400, 200, bam, 550 people appeared. All right, guys, so I'm going to throw out a challenge. We have 550 people watching the hangout right now. It's probably 600 since I got the message. And the gentleman sitting beside me, Chris Boucher, I mean, he's the reason we're here. I'm not kidding. I'm going to shut up talking because my voice is almost gone, and we're going to chat with Chris. And Chris tells a story that is unparalleled in the history of hemp. And every single person, whether they are in Kannaway or not, really deserves to hear this story. that they really truly do. And so you have an effect on that. There is somebody that you know, you are watching this, you 600, 700 people at this point, you're watching this, reach out, Kannaway.com/hangout, get somebody to come over and join us, even if they're not going to join Kannaway, even if they're not interested in earning income, even if they're not interested in hemp cannabis, even if they're not interested in Kannaway, they deserve to hear this story. Marcos is gonna toss us our hemp vapes.
Tell them the Godfather is in the house.
Yeah, exactly. Tell them that the Godfather is in the house. We all got our hemp vapes, so we're gonna chill. We're gonna relax. Tell them who Chris Boucher is. Introduce yourself. Who is Chris Boucher?
Well, I'm Chris Boucher, and I definitely appreciate the great intro. And you know, I always pay homage to those before me, and you know, I was definitely part of the movement. But people like Jack Hara, author of The Emperor Wears No Clothes. I don't know if anyone's ever read his book. He's the grandfather. He's the guy. Without that book, none of us would be here. And plus all the frontline soldiers and all the people that, you know, put their life on the line to get hemp legal and get it to become a global, you know, institution here. And but you know, I started out back in 1990, I think it was, and opened one of the first hemp companies in America. It was called the Hempstead Company. We made hats, wallets, bags. We sold our hemp products to Dave Matthews Merchandise. We made stuff for the Beatles anthology. I mean, hemp was big. The textiles were huge in the 90s. We even did stuff for Fish. Fish had to have some hemp T-shirts.
Yep.
And around 93, 94, we formed the HIA, Hemp Industries Association. By then, there was a couple hundred companies, you know, making hemp products, and just said, let's put an association together and, you know, able to get some credibility. And the movement's been increasingly, you know, expanding every year. Back in, was it 94, I grew a field of industrial hemp. That was like my big, you know, claim to fame. You know, like, oh, what did you do? Well, I grew a field of hemp.
Wait a second, Chris. You were the first to get a license to grow that hemp field, weren't you?
Yes, we got a contract from the USDA Research Center in Imperial Valley, California, and that entitled us to grow industrial hemp on a research center facility, and it really kind of made history. CNN was out there.
All right.
You're the first person since 1937 to legally grow hemp in the United States.
All right, that's what.
Technically, there's in the 50s there was still some hemp growers in the States, but
World War II.
World War II, yeah.
All right, so hold on, don't jump for this. People will be like, wait, I want this story. So, Chris, take us back, right? So there tends to be three parts to the hemp story, right? Historical hemp, and then what happened to hemp in the United States, and then you come along and the Hempstead Company and the association. So let's go back to that first part. Take us back, you know.
How far back do you want to go?
How far back? We can go back to the pyramids.
Let's go back to historical hemp. Give us a history lesson. Historical hemp.
Well, I just learned something new last week. There was a new historical hemp find, and it was found, some hemp fabric was found wrapped around a baby in Turkey that was 9,000 years old. I mean, this goes back before the pyramids. So we do know that, you know, humans have had a direct relationship with hemp for, I say, tens of thousands of years. And as you move into, you know, the last, I'd say, 5,000 years, it's been instrumental in almost every society. Even if you go back, we can start, you know, just here in this country when, we'll say Christopher Columbus. I don't like to use him as an example, but we won't go there. But I don't think America would have been founded if it was not for hemp. The hemp ropes, the hemp sails. None of these ships could have made it to America and set up the new 13 colonies and, you know, created commerce and industry. And it was the key asset for global commerce was hemp sails and hemp ropes. Reason being is that a cotton sail, once it gets salty and wet, it rips. Same with jute. And hemp is known to last up to 3 to 4 years on ocean voyages. And so that was like the nuclear fuel behind the global commerce and explorers. Matter of fact, the first hemp factory in the New World was set up in Chile. So as you traveled around the world, and when you hit Chile, you re-upped on your sails and your ropes.
Nice. Okay.
So you move forward, you know, and you've got you get the Mayflower, you know, everybody there grew hemp, and you know their hemp clothes and hemp sails made it over. And by the 1650s, they enacted some laws that if you wanted to live in the, you know, original colonies, you had to grow hemp. They gave everybody like a tablespoon of hemp seed, and that was your starter seeds. And you grew fibers so they could make clothes and they could make the rope, and that way everyone contributed to the commerce and the safety of.
So hemp was so crucial. That's the word I'm looking for. Hemp was so crucial to commerce that they distributed hemp seed to families so they could start farms and grow hemp in the original colonies.
Yes, that's true. And as Thomas Jefferson once said, I believe, I don't know if I can quote him by verbatim, hemp is of first necessity to the commerce in marine. That's one of his famous quotes. And, you know, I mean, even the president, and after he was president, he invented the, called the Jefferson hemp break. You can go to Monticello, you can go to their website, and it gives you the whole hemp history of Monticello and what Jefferson did. And he was even accredited to smuggling the first indica seed. He sent a undercover ambassador into China to smuggle out cannabis indica. For what reasons, I don't know. And back then in the 1700s, smuggling just one seed out of China was met with the death penalty.
Wow.
But he knew cannabis indica had some great attributes to it. And as you move forward, you know, into you know, the 1800s, the Civil War, some battles were fought. The Battle of the hemp bales. I mean, we can keep going and going. I mean, even all your paints, Sherman-Williams, all your house paints and your stains are all made from, you know, hemp-based paint.
Hemp.
Even dynamite. Dynamite was patented. When they patented it, they used hemp inside the core to hold the chamber of the gunpowder.
Didn't Jefferson also say hemp is a first necessity for wealth and protection of the country?
Absolutely.
Yes, that's kind of pretty much what I had said earlier. It's kind of, I think there's kind of different versions, but we can thank God for Google, we can get the correct interpretation.
Right here, baby.
But yeah, so as we moved up into the 1800s, it was just fascinating. I mean, how important hemp was within our society. I mean, Dr. Scholl's started in the 1800s, and their original patent was cannabis that was soaked inside the little insert that goes in your shoe.
All right, stop there. Dr. Scholl's is a massive, massive brand in America. Everybody watching this Hangout knows Dr. Scholl's. You guys know I have a cold. You've seen me all week. Say that again. They started in the 1800s.
And one of their key assets of the Dr. Scholl's insert, and they did an ointment, was cannabis-based, because back then people had a lot of foot problems, let me tell you. Yep. So your feet were really important back then, you know. So, you know, the cannabis CBD, the cannabidiol, it gets rid of, you know, warts and corns and athlete's feet and psoriasis. So that ingredient in the Dr. Scholl's was medicinal. I don't know when they changed it. It was probably in the 20s or 30s maybe when some new chemical came out. They decided to, you know, re-up on it, maybe make it cheaper or something like that. So, you know, these little tidbits of information, you know, are just part of our culture. You know, even the word cannabis means cannabis. So whenever the artists paint on a canvas, they're actually painting on cannabis.
Now, where do you know draw the correlation? Where does that come from? How do we get from the word cannabis to canvas, or canvas to cannabis?
Well, cannabis actually, linguistically speaking, if you take the word and you break it apart, canna means canine and bis means two. So when you say cannabis, you're actually saying two dog. And then sativa means most useful. And the reason being, when they first discovered the Latin interpretation of cannabis sativa, it was in Africa, and they asked this certain tribe, where did this plant come from? And they pointed to Ceres in the sky. They said, this is a sacred plant. It comes from Ceres.
Plant of the gods.
And Ceres is the eye of the dog, and plus Ceres is 2 stars in elliptical orbit.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, we can get pretty deep, but, you know, I don't want to scare people away just the importance of this plant and how it's so related to, you know, human evolution in our societies.
So, all right, so from what you're saying, and I know you guys probably have this question, from what you're saying, the new world, the world from baby wrapped in a hemp blanket 9,000 years ago to modern Europe, to the expansion of the new world, to the colonization of the Americas, to the growth of the 13 colonies into becoming the Americas. Why is hemp? How do we get from that to you can't have hemp?
Well, you know, that's a good question. I think back in the 20s, if you look back, all the newspaper barons, they were trying to convert their newspapers to hemp-based papers, you know, rather than using wood and trees. And but there happened to be, back then, there was a lot of racism that existed. And so there was a lot of demonization of the plant. And, you know, William Randolph Hearst was known for his racist attributes in his front page of his newspapers. And unfortunately, you know, he wrote a lot of lies about people using this thing called marijuana. But see, back then, no one knew that marijuana was hemp. And so there was these incredible, crazy stories of this plant, marijuana, like Frankenstein. You know, minorities and people of color would smoke it and go break into a white person's house and kill the whole family. So that scared America. And so this was...
Well, that didn't really happen.
Right.
This was what they wrote.
That's what
they wrote. They wrote
Right.
these. It's called sensationalism journalism, and so it really became a serious I think effort with the government and the newspapers, because they didn't want this drug or marijuana to be used by people, and you know, even the Jim Crow laws it affected, because people, when they smoked it, they might look you in the eye, and that was against the law. So they really wanted to outlaw this plant, we believe, because of that reason. And also, number two, if you read the 1937 Marijuana Tax Act and some of the testimony, they believe that a lot of the black jazz musicians were smoking marijuana, and it was making white people dance. And it was a very, very serious charge. They thought that jazz music was going to change the psyche of white America. And at one point, the FBI was going to arrest over 1,200 jazz musicians. They had a whole list, and the FBI was going to hit every jazz bar on a Saturday night and arrest these jazz musicians and stop jazz. And this way, you know, it was just insanity. So when they outlawed it, they didn't realize they were outlawing, you know, one of the greatest crops in America. The month after they outlawed it, Popular Mechanics came out with a front page story, because, you know, the newspaper or the magazine was a little bit, you know, ahead on its publication, that said the new billion-dollar crop.
Right. And they
not
just
even realizing that the month before they had mixed it. And during the hearings, you had people from like Sherwin-Williams Paint Company. They were saying, hey, what are we going to do about our paint? You know, we've been using hemp seed oil in all our paints. And they said, well, use petroleum. But I always thank the birdseed people, because they were testifying and saying, listen, if you outlaw the seed, our canaries won't sing. And, you know.
All right, so hold on. If you outlaw the seed, the canaries won't sing. And that's how the seed got kind of set aside to be legal?
The hemp seed is one of the main ingredients in most bird seeds, even to this day. And that's kind of where the law came in, where they allowed sterilized seed to still be used. They allowed hemp oil to be used. They allowed the hemp fiber. Actually, we're in a hemp T-shirt underneath there. So
We'll talk about hemp T-shirts soon.
yeah, so I mean, I'm skipping over a lot of different, facts, but there's so much to take in. There's so much history where, like I always said in the beginning, like, about The Emperor Wears No Clothes, the book by Jack Herrera. You read that, and you won't put the book down. You'll read this thing all night and all day. And that book is in 5 different languages, and so a lot of the excerpts I'm taking right out of the book, and that's where I learned a lot of my information from, and of course other activists out there, and even to this day, like I just said, I just read last week there was a 9,000-year-old piece of hemp fabric that was found.
Just keeps happening.
Just keeps happening.
So guys, we're gonna sit here and chat for a while. You guys are up to over 700 people at the moment and climbing, which is awesome. We're going to do something a little bit different than we've done in our previous Hangouts because we have the expert of experts on hemp sitting with us. If you have a direct question for Chris, post it in the Facebook comments. Sugar, who is running our Google Hangout and taking care of us on the Google Hangout, will tell Chris that his friend Thor is watching and says hi.
Oh, Thor was one of the editors of The Emperor Wears No Clothes. He was great guy. He helped Jack so much in the last years of his life, and I think just Thor being there helped Jack just live a little longer, and he was there every single minute for Jack, and thank you, Thor, for
I love that.
Rolling a doobie.
So guys, if you have a question for Chris, direct question for Chris, put it in the Facebook comments. Sugar's going to retrieve those questions. She's going to get them to me on my iPhone. And as long as you're not, crazy out of the universe, we'll sit here and have a chat and we'll answer some of your questions. All right, so let's move forward in the timeline a bit. So the whole basic world is formed on hemp, basically, and then the United States government gets a burr up its butt because some politicians and some people with a lot of money and influence decide not such a good thing. Draw a line for me is there a line between hemp and forestation? Is there a story there?
Yeah, I mean, that story comes from 1916 when the USDA was looking to replace paper because at the time they felt as though we were, deforesting our forests, and we were running out of wood, and they realized if we keep going at this rate, and mind you, this was in 1916, I believe it was Lester Dewey within the USDA yearbook, and they came to this conclusion from an experiment they studied, I believe, in Gilroy, California. I'm not sure if I'm in the right town, and hemp can go to 18, 20 feet high. And it produces more biomass per acre than anything we know of in 120 days. So they figured there was enough pulp per acre to equal 4 acres of trees over a 20-year cycle. So that's where the term 1 acre of hemp equals 4 acres of trees, and that's over a 20-year cycle. All right,
so slow down on this one, because I know when I first heard this, it took me a couple of days to really wrap my head around what you guys were saying. So we got a lot of people watching. Go slow and explain that one more time, because this is huge. This is a massive fact about him.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta understand, it was used for paper for thousands of years. All the first Bibles were printed on hemp, and all your documents, all your money, your currency. I believe even in your U.S. dollars today, there's a small amount of hemp in there. And the idea of just destroying our forest to make paper so people can read didn't make sense, because you destroy the forest, you destroy the canopy, you lose the animals, and you lose the habitat. And by replacing the paper with hemp, you create this environmental cycle that replenishes the soil. It increases wildlife, because when you grow hemp, animals come around. They love it, especially the birds.
now you said it a couple times. What is, because I've been hanging around you for 8 months now, so I hear this. I learn something every single day. And one of the things is the big thing about how long it takes to grow a tree to produce paper and how long it takes to grow hemp to produce hemp paper. What was the difference?
Yeah, well, you're talking 6 to 8 tons per acre, but it's equated that if you grew hemp over a 20-year period, that's where it equals 4 acres of trees.
Okay.
And in that course of time, the amount of forest you save is just incredible because, we've gotten addicted to paper. Right? I think that, now we're living in a digital society, so maybe that's a good thing. But, hopefully we will go back to hemp paper again. Like I say, history repeats itself. That's what Jack used to always say. It's all going to go back. Don't worry.
All right, so I had a question. Whole world established on hemp. New world established on hemp. We go away from hemp. Tell me about, is it World War II? I find this completely fascinating.
Well, back in the 30s, they were able to exploit the petroleum-based chemical. And pretty much anything you can make out of a carbohydrate, you can make out of petroleum. So they basically, whether it was the plastics or the clothes or the oil, they replaced the carbohydrate with petroleum-based, molecules. So, so we need to go back to the carbohydrate manufacturing and production, which is, very environmentally
much
safe.
Better for the environment.
Yeah, when you go back to the carbohydrate, you bring back farming, you bring back agriculture to enhance these rural communities that need to grow hemp in these farm towns that are just decimated. Now of course in California with the water, we might have a little issue, but
yeah.
But as we move forward, you want to move forward like into the 30s or the 40s.
Yeah,
and,
keep going. Absolutely.
So we pretty much banished most hemp production because the Marijuana Tax Act. Then World War II came, and the country was so reliant on the Philippines for manila fiber that the Japanese cut off our fiber supply, our rope supply, our twine supply, and the government started a program called Hemp for Victory, and they formed a company called War Hemp Industries, and that's when Jack Herrera, he's the one that went to the Smithsonian, and he asked them for this movie. I heard there's a movie that was made called Hemp for Victory, made by the U.S. military, and they said, oh, there's no such movie. No, that was never made. And then as Jack said, some old man came out of the back room and slid him a copy and said, here, I think you've been looking for this. And that movie right there, by Jack exposing that, that's where I think it broke the Hoover Dam. They said, wait a sec, our U.S. government was involved in the largest hemp manufacturing program in the history of America in 1942.
All right, so let's make that pretty clear here because this is important. We outlawed hemp. We said you can't have it in America.
Well, we taxed it. We taxed it so it would be almost impossible to grow it. It was a massive tax.
Massive tax, and then World War II comes around. We're no longer able to get our resources from outside of America based upon our enemies in the war. So we start the largest production of hemp in the history of America, funded, ran, grown by the U.S. government.
Pretty much, yes. The Body Credit Corporation, it was a joint venture with the U.S. government and some private companies under U.S. It's called War Hemp Industries, but fascinating story again. The Emperor Wears No Clothes, and stories like this need to be exposed, and people, understand. Okay, wait a sec, this is good. If our government grew it, why can't we?
Well, everybody out there is a Googler, so everything you're saying, they got another window open, Googling all these stories that you're saying. So we're going to get tons of questions, and people are going to be looking at all kinds of stuff.
Stories in the history.
The history, exactly.
Yeah.
So what I hear all the time, I hear about the Battle of the Bulge.
Yeah, well, Battle of the Bulge, you understand that, even then, just your cannon fuses were all made from hemp. Most of the clothes that they had were made from hemp.
Someone, and I'd love to get your opinion, because and that's why I'm getting questions. I have some questions we're going to come up with. So, in the Battle of the Bulge, it was severe cold weather, and I heard that because our clothing was made from hemp, that it didn't retain the water and get so frigid and keep cold as opposed to the enemies we were fighting. Am I getting that wrong?
You know, there's some stuff I just don't know. I mean, I definitely would want to research that exactly, what type of clothing. 'Cause I do know the military issue mostly was wool and cotton. You'd find hemp in the stitching of the boots.
Okay.
You'd find hemp on the threads of the parachute. Most of your webbing was hemp. So there's a famous story when George Bush was shot down in World War II. Man, he made it to safety by his parachute that had hemp webbing, and his shoes had hemp thread in it. You know, that's what Jack used to say. And there was because we know that the Army and the military did use hemp in all the parachute webbing and in the shoes.
So we can't grow it, we can't use it, but we can use it in the Army.
Yeah.
All right. So the new world is fun, is grown on hemp. We outlaw it or tax it, or we basically say it's not going to happen. We bring it back for World War II, and then it goes away again.
Yeah, the war ended, and so again, as it was ending, it was back to that battle of the carbohydrate versus the petrochemical, and that's when nylon and DuPont, that's when they started really pushing their nylon threads and their nylon fabrics and their petroleum-based paints. So there was this whole revolution when plastics, we don't need to make plastics out of vegetables. I mean, all plastics were up until eventually
they were made from something that we grew from the earth.
Yeah. So there was just that whole market segment that just grew and just outgrew and misinformed the public, and people couldn't grow hemp, and so they couldn't compete. It was snuffed out. They snuffed it out through lies and manipulation, and just they even ripped it right out of our history books.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it. You send your kid to school, and you want them to know true history.
They don't learn about hemp.
No, they don't. They don't realize that we used to salute. The flag was made from hemp. Betsy Ross, Old Glory. Matter of fact, I saw that in the Smithsonian Institute, and they had it on display, and you could see the hemp threads in there. I mean, it moves you to understand that this was, as patriotic as patriotism can be when you're saluting a hemp flag. It doesn't get more patriotic than that.
Some would say that when you're patriotic and you're thinking about America and the foundation of our country, that you're thinking about hemp.
Yeah, I do, and I think, if people read the true history and it wasn't taken out of the history books, they would come to the same conclusion too. It's just, you can't think that way if you haven't been taught that.
Right, exactly.
Aren't there a bunch of presidents that were actual hemp farmers?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you had, George Washington and Jefferson. Ben Franklin had a paper mill. We knew he used a lot of rag paper back then. Rags, which are all made from hemp also.
Yeah.
And, Madison, even Abe Lincoln, Abe Lincoln's wife, he married the daughter of the largest hemp grower in America. Do you know what her name was?
No, I do not.
Abe Lincoln's wife.
Abe Lincoln's wife, Mrs. Lincoln.
Mrs. Lincoln, yes. She came from the most prominent Kentucky hemp growers in the United States. They were millionaires.
Back then.
Yeah, he married a very wealthy woman.
Mary Todd.
Yes, Mary Todd.
Sugar Nose.
Yeah, Mary Todd.
Mary Todd.
To the tip of my tongue.
So, we were talking about nylon and DuPont. We didn't prep this question. We are really just talking. Yeah. So I'm not sure if we know. Compare the strength, the tensile strength of a cotton rope, a nylon rope, a hemp rope.
The tensile strength of just the bast fiber itself.
Yeah, all things being equal,
is about 4 to 5 times stronger than cotton. So that's 400 to 500 times stronger when you go 4 to 1.
4 to 1.
Yeah, on average, depending on the quality of the hemp.
Wow. 4 times stronger than cotton.
And it's got a good memory, and the reason why it was so good for ropes, you know, and stuff for boats, because it had a memory. When it stretched, it would go back. Where cotton rope just stretches, yeah, and it rots, and it doesn't last very long.
Huh. So, bring us up to speed on. Jack writes a book.
Jack and Captain Ed. We always leave
Jack
Captain
and
Ed.
Captain Ed.
Captain Ed. He was Jack's best friend. I mean, they both took an oath that they would fight for legalization of hemp and cannabis until they died or until they were 84.
85, we're done.
Yeah.
So Jack and Captain Ed write a book. How do you come in contact with Jack? Where does this journey begin for you?
That's a good story, and I'll keep it kind of short. I actually was in Van Nuys, California, and I walked into a store called Captain Ed's in Van Nuys Boulevard. At the time, I made some really cool tie-dye bikinis and tie-dye backpacks, and we were selling to different head shops and psychedelic shops.
You were a hippie, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, my hair was a little bit longer. And I walked into this store, and they were signing people up for this petition to legalize hemp. And so I said, "What's hemp?" And Jack was there and Captain Ed. And they said, "What's hemp?" 8 hours later, I was in that store all day, and just the information that I didn't want to leave because he was telling me stuff that I just couldn't believe. But he would show me in his book, here's the picture of the popular mechanics, and here's a historical record. And I just kept on thinking, why didn't I learn that in school?
Yeah.
And I got home that night, and I told my girlfriend at the time, "Hey, honey, guess what I'm going to start doing? I'm going to make clothes out of hemp." And she said, "You're crazy, And the next day, I told a few people, and they said, "You're crazy. You've been smoking too much hemp."
You've been smoking too much.
And it got me mad. I said, "You know what? I'm going to prove these people wrong because I know Jack and Captain Ed were so right." And so that just led me on this journey. It got me kind of pissed off, but sometimes you got to do that to really.
Troy Neihart, everybody. Say hi.
What's going on, hempy people?
Keep going. Sorry to interrupt.
So, yeah, that day changed my life forever, and I don't think I have stopped talking hemp since that day in 1990.
You haven't stopped talking hemp since I met you a couple months ago.
And I haven't stopped working. There were years that were great during the 90s. The whole hemp clothing and hemp fabric wave was huge. We were selling fabric to Converse shoes. Converse would order a container load of fabric like once a month from us. Walt Disney's buying hemp hats because the Indiana Jones character back in the 30s wore hemp. Yeah, when Walt Disney placed an order, I said, "Why do you guys want hemp?" And one of the buyers said, "Well, it complements the era of that time because people wore hemp. Disney did their research and they wanted to be authentic."
Yeah.
So, it just, it was incredible. The 90s were just years of a lot of education.
They can hear you.
And so, it was incredible. And, having Jack and the hemp people do the rallies at the federal building. You get 10,000 people to surround the federal building in L.A. And we would have hemp seed pancake breakfast there.
Picking it up. Go ahead.
We're
hearing the radio.
That's
Turn it down.
That's
Why
Bob.
would you turn down reggae when he's talking about?
That's Bob.
Because we're focused
Hold on.
Chris.
Did somebody just try to turn off Bob?
We're turning off Bob so we get a clear Chris.
And, even Bob, on my journeys in hemp, I met Bob Marley's mother at the trade show in 1993. And I met Bob's mother and his brother. And I couldn't even believe it was them. And it became a 20-year relationship with them because it was the first time they actually touched hemp. They saw hemp oil. And Bob's mom said, "See, I knew it. This is what my son prophesied about." And she kept petting that fabric and said, "This is real." And see, up until the 90s, no one had ever really seen what hemp fabric looked like, or never touched it, So it was the journeys and the trials and the tribulations that we journeyed on were just incredible.
So I actually don't know the answer to this. I've never asked you this. I don't know the answer. Where did that 90s hemp craze go? Because I don't today see the same. Like, I was aware of that craze and everything was happening. Where is that today?
Well, in the 90s, you had people that were traveling the whole country doing hemp speeches at the colleges. Jack probably did 200 speeches a year at different universities, at colleges. We had the Grateful Dead, which was incredible. That was 80,000 hemp people at one time in one city. The message of hemp gets spread pretty good.
Yeah.
But I like to say also there was another movement. It was kind of a silent but just beautiful movement, was the hemp necklace movement.
Yeah.
We started having local kids. Our company was in Costa Mesa, California, and we would pay local girls and some guys to make hemp bracelets, and we'd pay them a couple bucks. And the next thing you know, I was selling tens of thousands. I couldn't make enough hemp necklaces or bracelets, and they're all made in America. And of course, the Chinese caught on by '95 and knocked out all those poor little girls and their production. But I think that was another message where kids were going home and saying, "Mom, look at, I have a bracelet made out of hemp." Or they're in school, in high school, in their history class, going, "Look, I have this is made out of hemp. Did Christopher Columbus grow hemp?" And even the teachers didn't know, so the kids were teaching the teachers.
Wow.
So this movement started from just the grassroots core people, and it just spread up. And so there was many different, avenues of education. Like I said, the touring and the lectures around the universities, and our Canadian partners and our German partners. When Jack translated The Emperor Wears No Clothes into German, it became like a top seller in Germany. And now Germany's 20 years ahead of us in their hemp technology.
And you know what, Chris? There's one fact that I think we're leaving out. You might have said it, but now that you met Jack and you were that kid, or I don't know if you were a kid, but you were that hippie that went to there and stayed for 8 hours, something happened between you and Jack, because then, from what I understand, you actually was the best man at Jack's wedding.
Yeah. When it happened to be, I was just, honored he asked me to do that. It was the last minute. He said, "Get married." I said, "When are you getting married?" He says, "I'm getting married in about an hour. Meet me over here." And but he was the kind of guy that the energy that he put out was intense. I mean, he was intense. He was like this walking Moses, I mean, and he would scorn people and he would straighten you out when it came to him. And you could I could still hear his voice ringing in my head. I'm sure a lot of other people out there they knew Jack, but he left a lifelong impression on you. And there's not many people like him left. He was one of those old timers of that generation that, he was going to do this till he died.
Yeah.
And he gave up a lot. And he would feed people. He would feed anybody that needed food. Every time he'd raise money, he would feed people, and it was just incredible, the generosity that I saw that guy gave.
Let's jump back a little bit. I have a question. I'm gonna massage it a little bit. We have a lot of people watching. I think, Sugar, give us the number real quick. So the Bible. We have a lot of people, different religions watching. The Bible is a prominent book in civilization. Talk to us about hemp within the stories of the Bible.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. First of all, I mean, the Bible was originally, by law, had to be printed on hemp paper.
By law?
Yeah, by the sacred paper for the scrolls, and they knew it would last longer. And, there's many stories in the Bible that do relate to hemp, but one of them that directly mentions cannabis is Exodus 30:23, I believe. And Exodus is the story of where Moses goes to the mountain and he speaks to God. And when God tells you to make something, you make it. So God tells Moses to make the holy anointing oil. And he actually gives him the ingredients. God tells Moses, I want you to use, I think, 500 shekels of myrrh, a couple hundred shekels of frankincense, and, 500 shekels of calamus or sweet cane. That's what it says in the current Bible. But when they translated it from Greek into King James, as Jack would say, they misinterpreted it, or they purposely missed correct.
It got changed.
Yeah,
somehow.
it got changed. But we now know through Hebrew text and through Aramaic and through Greek that it was cannabis. And so Moses was around, 4,000 or 5,000 years before Christ, almost a few thousand. I'm getting my thousands of years mixed. But so all rabbis for 2,000 years, even to up until Jesus, carried the holy anointing oil, which mixed with cannabis.
Wow.
And they were healing people with it back then. So, I mean, this is a powerful, powerful herb that was used by the top religious leaders, and it was instructed by God. How does it get better than God?
Wow.
And what is it in Hebrews? They talk about I think Hebrews 8, where they say God has given you he who plants the cloth of the thorn shall damneth the earth. He who plant the cloth of the herb shall blesseth the earth. And we interpret this as the cloth of the thorn is cotton. Cotton has thorns in it. And even to this day, when you grow cotton in the ground, it depletes the soil and you can't grow anything on it for 3 years.
I actually knew that part.
Yeah. And so the cloth of the herb, what other cloth is made from an herb, and it actually puts nutrients and nitrogen into the soil. So, the Bible is about farming, about agriculture. It's about
Civilization.
The shepherd and the landowner. It's definitely quite a book, but people take it sometimes too literal. But
let's see.
How about fast forwarding, in time to 2014, February or
Billy's jumping ahead. He's
Well,
jumping.
time work.
Go for it.
12 minutes left in the hangout.
We can go over a little bit. I think we're holding their attention.
I'm pretty sure. Chris Boucher holds everybody's attention. The Godfather. What do you think is going to happen March 1st, April 1st, May 1st with Kannaway? Where do you see this going? Do we have a hemp revolution happening? Are people's consciousness shifting? Or do you see this really taking shape the way that it's taking shape right now?
I think that every single day it's going to expand for the fact that we've never had this massive onslaught of media articles and stories written on cannabis and CBD and hemp. Every day is in the news. It's in the newspaper. So we've just educated, probably in the last 6 months, a couple million more people that are going to want products. And they're going to want to get involved with CBD and cannabidiol and hemp-based Kannaway products. And I think, educating the consumer, on these benefits and what hemp's about, and I think that's going to really, expand beyond anyone's belief. It's like a wildfire now from what I've seen. Like I say, every day there's a story in the news or on TV, and a new state is legalizing it or decriminalizing it. And I think any kind of media is good media when it comes to hemp and cannabis.
Right on. So we've got the hemp vape, which is positioned to launch with Kannaway. A lot of people right now are looking at this going, is there THC in these? What is in this? Is this have anything to do with what people get high with?
Yeah, well, you have your CBD, and there's a small amount of THC, 0.007, because it's from an industrial hemp cultivar.
So 0.007.
2 zeros and a 7, I think, within that unit.
So since you said that, and I've heard you say this a little bit before, how much of this would I have to smoke to get high?
I don't think you'd be smoking all day, all night, and
All day.
you probably never get
all
high.
night.
You just dry out your mouth. And,
So you couldn't do it.
I call it the poppy seed bagel theory. It's like, there's more opiates on your poppy seed bagel than there is THC in the pen. So
I was going to
visualize.
Charles is just leaving, but he really describes it best. What happens because people ask you, so what does it do? What does it do? What does it do? You know, smoking hemp vape. He calls it a shoulder dropper. Shoulder dropper.
You got it good. Keep it going.
Chris, we talked about this a little bit when we were kind of setting up today, and I've gotten some questions, and you explain it really, really great. Okay, so I know I've had some questions. So you guys listen to this, and I'm going to let Chris explain it. CBD is not legal in all 50 states, but our products, CBD-rich hemp oil, is legal in all 50 states. Create that distinction for us.
Yeah.
Draw that line. Help us understand how that is.
Yeah, well, and that's a great question because CBD, cannabidiol, is a constituent of hemp seed oil. So if you went to like Whole Foods, you went to a health food store, there's 25 to 30 milligrams of CBD in every kilo of hemp seed oil. Every 5 pounds of hemp seed, I believe, there's about 20 milligrams. Actually, echinacea, there's CBD in echinacea. There's CBD in flax oil. So this is a constituent that you find in the plant kingdom. I even heard recently there could be a little bit of CBD in certain types of camp. So we know that it's not just exclusive to hemp. So you'd have to outlaw all these other plants.
Right.
And there's no specific mention in any law that specifies cannabidiol. They do specify cannabinoids, THC, but since this is the no-high part of the plant, gets you healthy, just like other vegetables do. Hemp's a vegetable.
Hemp's a vegetable.
Yeah. Says it right on the U.S. tariff import docs.
So Kannaway as a company is going to be shipping products. We were talking about this today. I posted this in the Facebook group. Our products are going to ship to all 50 states, including Alaska and Hawaii, and Washington, D.C. I know that's trivial, but somebody did ask that question because it's a territory, not a state. And we are working on Puerto Rico as well as Virgin Islands. So our products are going to ship to all of those states. And the reason why our products are going to ship to all those states and nobody's going to have a problem is because CBD-rich hemp oil, that is what is in our products, and that is completely legal.
Yes, it's considered industrial hemp.
Industrial hemp.
And most people, there's a huge CBD craze going on, and a lot of the growers and cultivators are all, trying to, create the next CBD plant. And most people don't know all of your strains, your Harlequins, your ACDCs, your Charlotte's Web, they are from industrial hemp. What they've done is they've taken industrial hemp varieties that some of them have a 20-to-1 ratio,
right,
and some of them are hybrided it. But there are some CBD plants that are 1-to-1 ratio.
So when you say 1-to-1, CBD to THC?
Yeah, the exact amount percentage is 50% CBD, 50% THC. And every body's different. Every metabolism is different. What you ate that day determines how the CBD, THC processes. But, some of these strains that are 20-to-1, 15-to-1 seem to work well. A lot of times, with...
Stay on that for a minute because that's important. I don't think a lot of people know that. Some people just think it's a plant. But there are growers that want 20-to-1 THC to CBD, and there are other growers that want 20-to-1 CBD to THC, right?
Yeah. Really, we're still trying to figure out which ratios work in tandem, but we do know they both work together. And CBD can propagate the THC to even in small percentages. It's symbiotic. Like we do a full plant extract at Hemp Meds PX and U.S. hemp oil, and this full plant extract has chlorophyll. It's got a protein. It's got a linolenic acid. And some people go, "Oh, this is some black tar stuff." It's green. And it's so symbiotically related with plant constituents that it actually makes the CBD and THC work better in the body. A lot of people like to clean the oil and you get a gold oil. That might work for some people, but definitely we've seen just to the thousands of people that the full plant extract now is starting to have certain featured benefits that the golden oil doesn't have. So, you know, we're moving at warp speed here, and
Someone's at the
I
door.
think as we move forward, we're just learning and learning. I mean, I'm just learning stuff myself today.
All right, so we as Billy said, Billy, do you have any questions or anything? You want to bring anything up here?
Well,
We are in a live environment, guys. So if someone's at the door or walks by,
anything can happen.
anything
Literally,
can happen.
anything can happen.
Let's pan over to Billy real quick. What are you thinking, Billy?
So what I'm thinking is, where does CBD fit in today's economy? How can somebody out there take a look at this, get educated, get informed, and start sharing Kannaway with other people? It's tough, I know. I threw you on the spot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know, just going online and Googling and just you know, doing the research. I like to tell people to go to mycbdresearch.com, and that's a nice plug and play. You can put like any kind of degenerative disease, any kind of ailment, and it will bring up the studies. Right now, I believe there's over like 2,200 different studies on cannabidiol and what it does and what the benefits are. And so,
So most people, they don't think that there's any studies that have been done.
no, there's thousands and thousands. The Europeans, the Israelis, the French, the Australians, they've done so much research because they're allowed to. And
So the research is out there, the studies are in. That's hemp. Rope is made out of hemp.
this is a rayon hemp, I believe, and this is a mercerized soft textile.
It's nice.
Yeah, it's very soft. It's like a soft rayon silk.
Hemp bed linens.
I got a great question for Chris.
Go for it.
Are you going to be there on Saturday when this baby officially pre-launches?
Saturday, yeah, I can't wait. Saturday night.
Saturday
I
night.
gotta be there Saturday night with the whole hemp crew.
That's right. That's at the Sheridan Inn in Mission Valley.
Sheridan Mission Valley, yes, sir.
So how excited is the Godfather about Kannaway? I mean, everybody wants to know.
I'm really excited. I'm just looking forward to. You guys have educated. What, 15,000 people are on board right now.
Possibly 16,000.
Yeah.
Possibly. I mean,
I'm an educator, so I just look at the education factor, which the ramifications of you educating 15,000 people. I mean, you do the math. I mean, they're going to educate
6 days.
in 6 days. I mean, see, that stuff that's all new to me, and to see that expand that quick, and those 15,000 people are probably going to talk to 10 other people and explain to them, guess about it. I mean, is
Imagine where we're going to be in 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years. I mean, the tip of the iceberg, I honestly don't even think that it's showing yet. We haven't even scratched the scratch of the surface.
well, if it goes global, I think the global hemp economy is. I mean, today you could ship something, and it's going to be in somebody's mailbox in England, the next day almost. So,
Well, I can tell you, I mean, the demand is there. The interest level, the curiosity, the want, the need. I maybe have probably close to 100 messages through Google Plus and Facebook from people overseas, different parts of the world that are saying, when can I get involved with this?
Yeah.
The fact we don't have an answer for you yet. I mean, this is all about rolling it out properly and making sure that everything goes absolutely smoothly and awesomely inside the United States. I think after that, because CBD, the products that Kannaway will have are right now, they're legal to be shipped into over 40 countries. There's no reason why I see expansion in the future.
yeah, it's like, is it illegal to ship a poppy seed bagel? So I think that just
Is it?
no. Yeah, they go down to the local bagel store and.
It's crazy.
Yeah. But what's crazy how this thing has expanded, and like I said, the education drives people. Especially if it's something that they didn't know, and the facts are correct, then I think that leads to an informed consumer.
Are you telling me that knowledge is power?
Knowledge is
my
power.
friend, and that's what Jack taught me: is knowledge is power.
I think when
And we've just scratched the surface on you know, the
Scratch,
history of hemp.
scratch,
Yeah,
scratch.
yeah. I mean, I probably jumped all around.
Well,
You know.
the story of hemp is so intriguing, and the fact that it's been hidden, it's almost like it's a story of discovery. And it's like you uncover one little layer, and it makes you want to get the next and the next layer and the next layer.
I could tell you stories that would blow your mind. And everyone else's, but I got to stick to facts. There's some,
right down the middle, Chris.
There's some heavy metaphors out there,
Yeah.
you know, that I was taught. Jack and the Beanstalk, Popeye. Story of Popeye. Who was Popeye? He was a sailor that smoked spinach. Spinach was the code name. All the jazz singers, you got your spinach.
Oh, hello.
And who did Bluto represent? Bluto was the oil company.
Bluto was the man.
He was always spilling oil. And olive oil, she represented olive oil. Olive oil in the 1920s was the first, #1 imported oil into America. Wow. Who did Wimpy represent? Wimpy represented the banking industry. He always wanted a hamburger on Monday, and he would pay you on Wednesday. Oh,
Crazy
Jack
backstory,
taught me
huh?
well. You want to talk about the Wizard of Oz?
I told you we're going to get good.
I'm just going to get good. I mean, I just, you know.
Slippery Harrison in there.
All right. So the questions that we're getting the most about, I'm surprised by this, but this is the question we're getting the most questions about. I'm not even going to frame it. Environmental impact of hemp.
Yes, the environmental impact of hemp. Okay, for every acre of hemp you grow, it can sequester 2.5 tons of carbon. We don't know within 120 days what other plant can sequester that much carbon.
All right, so some people don't know what sequester means, so break it down for us. What does that mean to the environment?
That means it's able to pull carbon out of the air like trees do, like living plants do, and by sequestering that carbon, you know, cleans the air.
So if you buy into global warming and that carbon emissions create a greenhouse effect which melts the iceberg, which ultimately kicks the humans off the planet, hemp would affect some of that.
Oh yeah, and it creates a canopy. And, you know, the canopy is symbiotic with the atmosphere. If you give thousands of acres of hemp canopy, it creates a watershed. It actually can pull water up. I mean, it cleans the soil. The tap root's going down, you know, probably, you know, 8-12 inches on some plants. So these benefits have been around for a long, long time. You know, that's when we go back to Hebrews 7 and 8, you know, in the Bible where it says, you know, he who plants the cloth of the herb shall bless it the earth. That means, you know, hey, if you plant this herb hemp, it's going to put nutrients in the earth.
Wow.
So we've known this for, you know, even George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, they would use hemp just as a rotator crop, just to put nutrients back in the soil.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Guys, you guys enjoying hanging out with the godfather of hemp? He's on the team. He's not part of Kannaway. He's part of our portfolio. He's in the hemp industry. He's an advisor to our team. He's just always available to help us go to the next place. And we're super charged to have you on the team, my friend.
Well, I'm just honored to be here and just, you know, seeing the people that you're bringing into this hemp world and, you know, getting believers into the hemp. I mean, I've met some of the people you brought in. They didn't know what hemp was.
I know, right?
You know, you got them a hemp vape and some hemp salve.
And they're turned on.
You know, they're just like, okay, this worked for my wife and my kids. And, you know, one last thing is when you put your kids to bed at night, many of you have kids, you're probably going to be putting their pajamas on. Well, remember this. Their pajamas, the word pajama is a Korean word that means men's cannabis pants. Pajima. It's a word that we took from the Koreans.
Wow.
And we use it in our language, you know, every night.
Wow.
We should have a fact of the day session from the Godfather.
I think that's a good idea.
Fact of the day every day.
Guys, we're gonna shut things down here, but before we do that, I have an announcement. You're gonna like this.
We got Ray Dietrich trying to call me.
We're on TV, right? We just crested 15,000 people. Now, I want to put this into perspective. Troy's sitting here. We've been working on this thing for a little bit, and we really did think, okay, we're going to put it out. We have some people who want to enroll. We want to get this bad boy started. We don't have a company yet. We're launching Saturday, by the way, in case you hadn't heard me yell that over this week. And we figured, 2,500, 5,000 people, we'd be doing a good job. We just crested 15,000 interested parties in the juggernaut brand Kannaway. So we're going to take this to a completely unfounded level tomorrow. And the reason we're doing it tomorrow is all of us are showing up and going into this weekend to launch Kannaway on Saturday. So here's what we're doing. I've reached out to some of our leaders, and beginning at 1 o'clock tomorrow. Now, some of you don't know this, but Google Hangouts, when they came out, they were limited to 2 hours. You could only go 2 hours. And then Google said, all right, we're going to go 4 hours. All right? And you got people doing 3.5-hour Google Hangout. Well, recently, last week, Google changed their algorithm, and you can now go 8 hours long. And I don't think anybody's ever done it before. So if you're a multi-level marketer, even if you're belly to belly, you know what a blitz day is, where you start the day and there's a call and you tell everybody to go get people and bring them back to the next call. And you do it over and over and over. And you drive enrollments, you drive education, you drive enthusiasm all day long. Tomorrow, starting at 1 p.m., 1 p.m., right here on this page, one of our leaders is going to start at 1 o'clock, second leader at 2 o'clock, third leader, and a continuous leadership, enthusiasm, power promotion of Kannaway. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Last time, all leaders coming back at 6 o'clock, and we are going to blow this thing away.
6 Pacific.
Pacific. I'm talking Pacific time right now. So starting at 1, if you're on the East Coast, that's 2, 3, 4, starting at 4, right? Same time, ending same time. We're going to start at 6 o'clock with the last session. And what I want you to do tonight, there's 15,000 people out there. Think about this. Think about this. If all of you reached out to 2 people and half of those people said no and you brought all those people back, we would close the day tomorrow with 30,000 people educated about what this gentleman has spent his lifetime educating people about. Go reach out to somebody tonight, 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern tomorrow. Get on this blitz. We're going to have offline guys. We're going to have the girls. We're going to have the young guys. We're going to have everybody on rolling this thing down. And tomorrow is going to be the best day that Kannaway is ever going to have. We're going to blow this thing into Saturday. Chris, some final words. Take us out of here.
Hey, if you really want to help out, you guys mind if I give a shout out to
Do it, brother.
The Cannabis Health Initiative run by Mike Jolson, and it's a Jack Herrera initiative. And I think you can still sign it. If someone has the petition near you, I suggest you go sign it. There's only like a couple weeks left, but I just wanted to give a shout out to those guys.
Be really clear. Tell them what to look up. They'll Google it and they'll be signing.
Yeah, it's the CCHI. It's Cannabis and Health Initiative, 2014, and they call it the Jack Herrera Initiative.
Awesome.
And it is the initiative to sign if you're a believer and you want to help out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hemp hooray. Thank you, sir. We love you guys. Love you, love you, love you. Tomorrow, 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern, we are rocking and rolling this thing.
For how many hours?
All day, all the way through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. See you guys tomorrow night.
Take care, guys.
All right.